is the best way to achieve success, and that's especially important when it comes to our finances. David Wald is a financial advisor with Lux Wealth Advisors, and he's here today to go through the key components of creating a financial plan. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. Now, I would imagine that one of the first things that we need to do is to set our financial goals. If we don't have a goal, we don't know where we're going.
Yeah, definitely set those goals, but even more so than just setting the goals, make sure you're being realistic about your goals. For example, if you want to travel, you're probably not going to travel these days overseas on a couple $1,000s. I've had clients that have said, we want to travel in retirement, but we'll set aside $2,000 or $3,000 and that's it. But yet they want to travel flying overseas or fly somewhere in the United States. So setting goals is one thing, but being honest with yourself about those goals is another.
David, and I just want to touch on this a little bit, does overseas travel fluctuate a lot, or is it always going up?
It does fluctuate a lot depending on what region you fly to. And especially now with airlines. Airline travel is so expensive right now because the demand is so high. If we continue to see that pressure on airline travel, it may come down because the demand may come down.
Right. All right, David, one of the things you talk about is a net worth statement. Why is that important?
It's good to know just where are you at? What are your assets? What are your liabilities? And where are you at? If you're in your late 50s and have a negative net worth, meaning you have more liabilities than you have assets, probably not going to retire the next few years. So really understanding where do you sit on that timeline, and financially, are we at where we need to be, or are we upside down?
Okay. You mentioned a certain age group. If you're at that spot, you're probably going to have to delay retirement. Is it common for people to be upside down, though, in their 20s and 30s? I would imagine so, with student loans and car loans and everything else, maybe.
It's very common starting out. And the biggest thing at that age is not necessarily net worth, but it's cash flow. What's coming in and what's going out? Do we have a surplus or do we have a deficit? So that's more important at, in your 20s, 30s, even into your early 40s than net worth is.
Okay. You also say that it's important to plan a budget and to know your cash flow. You touched on it a little bit. If you got more going out than coming in, that's a problem.
And I don't care what you make. I have clients that make 7 figures that deficit spend every year. And I have clients that make, $30,000, $40,000 a year and make a plan to save money. So it really doesn't matter what you make. It matters what you spend.
Okay. And that basically is knowing what you can afford and what you have to say no to.
Well, and it's really laying it out, saying, okay, what are our bills? Meaning, what do we have to pay for every month? What are our bills, our fixed expenses? And then from there, what's discretionary? What can we go out to eat with, or buy gifts with, or go have fun with? But really, what do we need to live?
Right. And there's an important time of the year coming up now, too, with holiday shopping and things like that. It's so easy to get caught up in, boy, they would really like this, as opposed to, boy, we can really afford to do this.
This is the time of year where I see people turn upside down. They've done well all year long, and then we get caught up in the holiday season and the Christmas hype. And what do we want to do? We want to go out and buy. We want to go out and shop. It's exciting. Black Friday is exciting. We're going to get up at 3 in the morning and go to Target or Walmart, wherever you go to shop. It's easy to get emotional when you're spending and do emotional spending.
All right, David, what is a debt management plan?
Debt management plan is basically how are you going to pay off your debts? What debts are you going to tackle more aggressively? What debts can we let go for the term of their note? How are we going to manage our debt? Where are we going to chip away at it?
I would imagine, too, whether you're 25 years old or 55, like we talked about earlier, having a plan for retirement, you can never start too early for that.
You can't. If you wait till you're in your mid 40s or mid 50s, it's going to take a lot more money put away every month to get to that retirement goal. I tell clients this: there's always going to be things competing for your dollar. When you're raising children, it's children. When you're starting out, it's wanting to buy a home. When you are in retirement or nearing retirement, a lot of times it's grandchildren. There's always going to be an excuse for why we can't save more. At the end of the day, that's why budgeting is so important. You work that into your budget as a fixed expense, And then you're going to, you're going to track that as you get closer to retirement.
And David, we can't plan for when or what kind of emergencies are going to pop up in our lives, but we certainly know that there are going to be some.
Yeah, emergency fund is so important. If you have that emergency fund, keep that fund in your bank, easily accessible to you. Because if you don't have an emergency fund, what are you going to reach for? You're going to reach for that credit card. That's going to then fall into high interest debt that we're going to want to pay off, and we're having to put more and more and more into that debt management plan.
Okay, where does insurance coverage fall into all of this? I know it's important to have not only health insurance, but also maybe life insurance.
Yeah, when you take a look at it, I have clients that ask me, is life insurance important? And I think it is very important. It's one of the overlooked planning tools that we have. But when you're just starting out, it's more so going to, how do we cover the debts that we have? How do I take care of my family if I'm no longer here to take care of them? Nobody's ever passed away in my 23 years of doing this, and their spouses come in and said, boy, we had too much insurance.
Yeah, we had more money than I know what to do with at this point.
Right.
Yeah. You also say that having an estate plan is important.
Yeah, an estate plan, everybody thinks estate plan when grandma and grandpa are planning to pass on the farm or something like that, that's an estate plan. An estate plan really is at any age. If you have a will, do you have a power of attorney? Do you have medical directives? If you have young children and you don't have a will and you die intestate, meaning you don't have a will in the state of North Dakota, the courts will help decide where your children go. And so it's really important, even if you're starting out, and especially if you have minor children, to have a plan in place. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be, trusts and all sorts of things going on. Make sure you have a plan in place, simple things. Where are my kids going to go? Who's going to raise them? And then who's going to manage the financial assets?
And I think that's so important too, because people think, creating a will or having a will, it's this long, drawn out, very intricate thing, but it doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be. And I think that's a misconception with planning wills, powers of attorneys, things like that. The same misconception is talking to a financial planner or a financial advisor about putting a plan together. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. That's why you interview an attorney or you interview a financial planner. Have them meet you where you are. Have them work at where your level is right now. It's going to change as you grow. It's going to change as you age. But have them meet you where you are now.
Excellent information. And David, we're down to a half a minute here, but I want to ask you, if there's one thing that people can do at any age to get on the right track, what would you say the one thing is that's quite simple to do that's really going to be a benefit?
Look at your cash flow. Look at your budget, no matter what age, no matter what income.
All right, David Wald, Lux Wealth Advisors, we thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us. North Dakota Today will continue right after this.